Hello everyone, today I will continue to practice reading English. Episode 3 Chasing People, Office English. What happens when you ask someone to do something at work and they haven't done it? I feel okay about it, and I always stay really polite, but obviously, if someone doesn't reply, and then you need it, and you have to chase them again and again. So, when I have to chase people up at work, I don't mind because generally it's just something they've forgotten about or they've missed the email. But yeah, it can get a bit awkward if you have to do it over and over again and you're not sure why. Today on Office English, we're talking about how to remind people to do something in a polite and professional way. Hello, welcome to Office English from BBC Learning English. I'm Pippa. And I'm Phil, and this is your podcast guide to the language of the world of work. Today we are talking about how to remind somebody to do something if they haven't responded to you, or how to chase people up at work. Yeah, as we heard at the start of the program, we spend a lot of time and energy at work reminding other people to do things. So, people, what do you mean when we say we need to chase people up at work? Yeah, so we don't literally mean to chase people. We just mean to go back to them on email or speak to them again to ask them one more time. Can you please do this thing, or can you reply to me, or send whatever you've asked them to do? So it's basically reminding somebody to do something. We use the phrase chase people up. Actually, when you are chasing people up, it can be quite important to think about who you are chasing up, because we probably chase different people in different ways. Yes, in the UK, where we work, people tend to be very polite and friendly when they first chase someone up. Of course, you then got the problem that they might not respond again, so you might have to send another reminder and then another reminder. So you might change your language each time, and today we are going to talk about each time you have to remind someone about a task and how you can change your language to convince them to get the job done. So we'll start by talking about the first time we need to remind someone of something. What phrases can we use, people? Yes, so if I were sending an email to someone to chase them up or remind them about a task, I would probably start by saying, just wondering if you saw my last email. What do you think about that, Phil? Oh yeah, this is one that I would definitely use a lot. We talk about how in the UK people aren't always direct, and this is perhaps a sample of this. It's maybe, I know you've seen the email, I know I sent the email, but just wondering if you sent my last email. Of course, you allowing for the possibility that they might not have seen it. Yeah, it's less direct and is quite friendly. It's quite a nice way just to remind people, and it's very clear what you want them to do. And then I might continue by saying, have you had a chance to? and then talk about the task I ask them to do. So that's asking them quite directly. You know, have you had a chance to look at the report? But I'm asking it politely. I'm showing I understand that they are busy and I may not be the most important person in their day, but have you had a chance to? It's a good way to just remind somebody about a task that you ask them to do. And you accepting the possibility that it might have been difficult for them to do it or difficult to find time. So yeah, in that way you are, I guess, showing more respect to the person that you are emailing. Yeah, and the final kind of polite, friendly first reminder thing you can do is you can say something like, if you're able to send it by next week, that would be great. So this you are giving them a deadline, a clear deadline of when you would like the task completed by, but it's polite still. So you still giving that impression that you understand their time and you're almost asking them rather than telling them. Of course, it can be difficult if someone is chasing you up, depending who they are. If they send something like that, which seems quite friendly, quite vague, if they are an important person, if it's a really important task, they might be using, if you are able to, that would be great, but they actually mean do it by then or else. Yes, that's the problem with this friendly, polite way of working that we have in the UK. Sometimes it's difficult to know. Okay, so let's imagine that we've set that first reminder. We sent an email of politely reminding somebody to do something, but we still haven't had a response. What do we do next? Phil, how could we change our language slightly? Okay, well, here's one. You could say, I wanted to remind you about, and then you explain the thing that you're chasing about underneath. Underneath is mean imply. Yeah, I like that. So that's a bit firmer. It's more direct. This time we are not asking somebody, you know, have had a chance to. We're saying, I want to remind you about, so it's a statement rather than a question. We not asking, we are telling someone to do something this time. But it's interesting, cause we still have wanted. We've got it in the past there, which kind of makes it kiss a bit more distant. There's still a little bit of politeness there, but it's a lot firmer than the ones that we looked at before. Yeah, it's definitely politer than saying do this or else, or as we saying, what's the next phrase, Phil? Please could you finish this by the end of tomorrow or whatever time? Yes, that's nice. So it's still a request. We're still not telling them rudely to do something, but we are being very clear now about the deadline. Please could you do this by this time tomorrow? Then you clearly say that's what needs to happen. Yeah, there's not really any space there for something different to happen, is there? It's very clear what needs to be done and when. And the next one is otherwise, And of course, you would use that to introduce the consequences of something not happening. This word where is starting to get quite serious, I think, at this point, isn't it? Yeah, it might sometimes be right to explain what's gonna happen if they don't do the thing. We don't really wanna threaten somebody at this point, depending on how serious it is that they haven't responded. But it might be good to explain the urgency. So we could say, otherwise, we might lose this client. So we are reminding somebody of what might happen if they don't do what we ask them to do. And that's just another way to kind of make it seem more serious and more direct rather than our language we had in our first email that was very friendly. Really just asking, oh, would you mind if you had the time, please could you help me with this important thing? Right, people. We try on those options and we still haven't heard back. Are there any other phrases we could try? Well, this is where it starts to get difficult. So we could just try a different way of communicating with them. So we could pick up the phone. We don't do that very often these days at work. We certainly don't do that much in our day-to-day work, but phoning someone or mentioning it in a meeting, going to the desk in the office to say, I don't know if you have seen my emails, but I would really like your report by tomorrow. You can then follow up with them on an email. That means just send an email to say, I'm just spoke to you about this. And then another thing we could do is we could considering escalating the problem. Now escalating is short of a business term we used to say we are going to inform someone more senior. So you might copy in on an email a manager. That means you send an email also to your manager or their manager. That will really depend on your workplace. What the request is, what is the consequences are of them not having done the thing. But it could be useful if they are not responding to you. Maybe they'll respond to your boss. I mean, it's very much depends on the culture of the place you are working with, doesn't it? And also how it's done. It might be done in a helpful way to make sure that a problem doesn't get overlooked. Sometimes you see people doing it in a very cynical ways of just adding lots of name into an email, which is perhaps slightly different. And then the final thing we can do is be clear about when our final email is. Okay, when our final reminder is. So I might send an email saying something like, this is a final reminder about, or I might use the phrase, this is your last to report. What do you think about that, Phil? Yeah, again, it's very cause it's very clear, so it's just a way to make sure everyone knows. They know the urgency of the situation, they perhaps now possible consequences. Yeah, and we should say that in some workplace cultures, you would probably be that direct in your first reminder. So some places don't have this strange situation where we have to pretend that we didn't send an email and remind someone, oh, did you see my email? And on these questions. But generally in the UK and probably also in the US, there is this kind of culture of politeness and in informal, informality. That means we don't send someone a final reminder straight away if they haven't done something. So we've learned some phrases to try and persuade people to reply and get the job done. So let's hear again from our BBC Learning English College. Okay, so when I have to chase people up at work, I don't mind. People generally it's just something they've forgotten about or they missed the email, but yeah, it can get a bit awkward if you have to do it over and over again and you're not sure why. Sometimes it's more difficult to chase somebody up that you work with on a regular basis. It's a bit difficult with that difference between being friendly and being in business, cause you actually need something. So few bad words talking there about the balance between being friendly and being business a professional. What do you think about that when it comes to chasing people up? It doesn't make it harder, doesn't it? I mean, you can't. It's a lot harder to break out the final reminder language or to use that. But yeah, that's why I think in general we've talked a lot in this series about having the balance between being friendly and polite and professional. So you always want to be friendly and polite, but you also want to stay professional at work. It's certainly very frustrating when people don't get back to you, and especially when you need their response to get on with your work. But hopefully the phrases we've discussed today will help you remain professional when you chase your colleagues or clients. That's it for this episode of Office English. Reminder, you can find some courses and activity to have with your English at work on our website bbclearningenglish.com. Next time we'll talking about phone calls, instant messages and video calls and language we need to communicate well at work. Until then, bye. Thank you so much for watching my video today, and let's happy contribute your thought, your opinion of my reading time to help me improve my reading skill, and let's subscribe my channel to support me, and don't forget and don't miss the great video, and see my progress.